of students or our kids on the screen than active use. And so the goal here is to shift the balance towards active relational engagement that fosters growth and connection. So this is just data to stress what we just said. What really matters isn't the quantity of time spent. We've seen that they've spent a high percentage of our time passively engaging on the screen, especially with entertainment and all that. So we know that screen time can be harmful, but screen time can also be helpful if we understand how they can actively engage or meaningfully engage with the screen. And that will depend on 3 key factors, which is the content which they consume, the context in which they engage, and of course, the connection they build through digital interactions. And we'll be speaking a little bit more on that as we go. But then it's also important that we understand the science behind engaging, the engagement, technology engagement, screen time, and all that. There's a lot out there, but in a nutshell, research has shown that healthy screen habits positively influences executive functions. When we talk about executive function, talk about things like self-regulation and all. Empathy, healthy habits, healthy screen habits positively influences executive functions, empathy, creativity, and of course, fosters essential skills for social interaction, problem solving, and even emotional understanding among children and students in this digital age. So we see that research consistently shows that the how of screen use matters far more than the how much. And understanding this, we need to begin to rethink screen time. And a lot of discussion in the past has really been on how long a child shouldn't spend more than 3 hours, a child shouldn't spend more than 30 minutes, a child shouldn't spend more than 1 hour if it's this age and all that. It's been how long, but then what really matters is the nature of engagement on that screen. Because if you're meaningfully engaging for 30 minutes, it will far more better than hours of just passive screen time where you're passively scrolling, and consuming entertainment, and just mindlessly viewing content. But where we move from that to active screen time, where they are creating digital content, communicating with purpose, collaborating on projects and all that, we see that meaningful engagement is being intentionally done. So intentionality, like we said, is key, where we need to guide our children to use screen, or our students to use their screen time with purpose, helping to build this empathy that we're talking about, helping to nurture curiosity. How can they use it to discover those questions that they keep asking? How do they go questioning quality over quantity, active participation over passive consumption, and of course, that genuine connection with others and with ideas? We need to rethink how we begin to help guide them through their screen time engagement. So what does active engagement look like? So the distinction between passive and active screen time is, of course, crucial for us to be able to distinguish between those, what kind of engagement, what kind of screen time is happening as it is. It's very important for us to be able to identify that for fostering meaningful engagement. So by understanding this, we can prioritize intentionality in screen use, where the children or our students can connect with content and develop empathy, which is one of the discussions we're having, and of course, enhance their curiosity, in general, enriching their overall digital experience. So you have them, the active, where meaningful connection enhances learning experience, co-viewing benefits. That's another thing I would be sharing just in a brief also, especially with us at home, some practice we can do to benefit from this co-viewing. And of course, collaborative learning, where our students especially have work in teams via various digital platforms to enhance their communication and empathy skills. So we'll be looking at a few of this in a little more detail than here. But one key thing that every other kind of engagement will be situated on, because one of the things we do, especially if you're an educator in the house, we're always looking for a framework or theory to hinge whatever it is that we're discussing on or researching about. So one key framework for this kind of beyond the screen intentional connection is the 3Cs framework. And the 3C framework talks about content, context, connection. Context, it states that the type of media children engage with significantly impacts their development. So we're talking about age appropriateness, we're talking about and all that on that content. Then context, understanding who and where children engage with digital media also shapes their experience. And then connection, talking about fostering meaningful connection through the screens that helps build empathy and social skills. So the 3C framework emphasizes the importance of content, context, and connection in a child's screen time. And so by focusing on these elements, we can guide the children towards more meaningful and engaging experiences. So this approach also would encourage active participation. We want to foster empathy and curiosity for a healthier digital interaction. So what are some practical ways that we could ensure that these 3Cs are implemented or used when we engage both for home and for school? So whether you're a parent or you're a teacher, this framework works for us all. And so content, you're asking the question, what are they engaging with? Is it age appropriate? Is it educational? Or is it enriching? So yeah, it may not be subject-based or whatever it is, but it could be enriching. It should be also age appropriate. Then does it promote positive values and critical thinking? Because a lot of things, especially nowadays, you have a lot of people who are content creators and all that. And sometimes I just wonder, must everybody create a content and put out there? And sometimes our kids don't know what to and what not. And because, for instance, somebody is very popular, and even if his content isn't enriching and yet is promoting values that are not positive, but because he's an influencer and all that, so we need to ask those questions, and how we would engage with this, we'll speak about in the later slide. But these are things that we need to look at when we are considering content with screen time. Then context, like one of the C's, with whom and with what, in what setting? Are they alone or with family? So that's for instance, in the home front. So when our kids are engaging during screen time on the screen, are they alone? Is it an isolated kind of engagement, or is it with family? Or in the classroom or even at home, is there guidance and support available during engagement? So the context of this is also very important. Then connection, which is the third C, like we've seen, does it build understanding or empathy, understanding of a concept, understanding of a topic, or does it build empathy? Is it enriching? Does it help create positive values? Their continuous engagement with the screen and with the content on the screen, will it help them be more understanding of other cultures, other people? And does the experience foster a relationship? Is there a connection? Are they connecting with others? Are they collaborating? Does it foster emotional intelligence? And of course, meaningful dialogue. Sometimes, I don't know if you've ever bothered, sometimes I go through some of my, there was a time I was going through my daughter's school chats, and there was just a lot of nothingness, let me use the word there, in the dialogue. And I'm like, are you people so bored that everybody just say hi, what are you doing, what's up, those kind of a thing, and nothing meaningful is throughout the discussions for that day. So this is also something, how are they connecting, is also very important. So when we have all these 3Cs aligned, we can see that the screen time for our children or our students become transformed, and it's a potential and opportunity for their individual growth. So what are some practical ways that we could use practices at home that could help, enhance the social and emotional learning? And one of the things is through shared experiences. We're talking about watching together, co-viewing, where you could discuss, and share what emotions, the values that the content is giving, whether it's positive or negative. You get into reflections, establishing some also rituals as a family, shared experiences, and of course, learning together. So it doesn't only just stop, but they're learning together also. There's a lot that we can do. For instance, you have a child who has some challenges with some particular topic or concepts and all that. You could go online as a parent. You understand your child, you understand what makes them tick, you understand the kind of contents, in what formats they easily embrace. And you could find contents in that similar, and there's so many, there's a plethora of resources out there in the digital world that you could find that suits your child at your child's age. And especially when you co-learn with them. I remember doing such with my daughter at a particular point where she had some math issues, and we had found one, I can't remember his name now, a young man who teaches math in such an interesting way. And learning with her, I could not, of course, these were sums I could solve, but while I was watching with her, I could understand some principles and behind how these sums are being solved, beyond how we had even learned when I was in school, or how I would have taught it normally. But, so being also older helps me to see this trend, see those principles, see those patterns, and I'm able to discuss, and help highlight those things, for her. So engaging intentionally with screen activities as a family will help foster, of course, meaningful connection. So co-viewing and discussing content together can actually enhance the understanding also beyond even at home. So it doesn't become strange that you're interested in what they're doing, and all that. Sometimes playing games together, and sometimes at home we kind of sit down as a family, do some Kahoot games and all. And sometimes when we do pick for instance, I remember a particular occasion where the kids, especially my boys at the time they were in the secondary school, did play answering, and we're doing well. And my husband was like, okay, impressed, because it helped us realize the depth of understanding that they had in those various concepts. And we could see where it is that it seemed like, okay, they weren't knowledgeable enough in those areas. So it helps not just watching together and also, but learning together is also very key. Spending time together as a family, screen time. For schools and for educators, so intentional screen practices, where we're also encouraging students to create rather than merely consume contents. Encouraging intentional screen practice in schools can foster empathy and collaboration among students. One of the ways, by utilizing digital storytelling and online feedback tools, like we've said, reflection tools, co-created artifacts. So for instance, the digital telling stories, you could encourage students to create narratives from different perspectives, build empathy through character development or point of view exploration. Just recently, during the summer program we had for kids, one of the activities we did was storytelling, where we put the kids in various groups and ask them to develop a story with a social value message. So they first created the story, and then we used an AI book creator to give life to the stories they create. And they were so excited. And, they had some moral values to share at the end of the story, which was the main point of the exercise anyway. So this is one thing we could do. And while they're creating that, they also begin to look at others' perspective and, peer feedback circles. There are some applications, there are some apps like maybe Padlet, for instance, where the students could put up their online contents. For instance, having done the storytelling, they put it up in a particular platform where others can also read and give constructive feedback, or celebrate each other's work. So this also helps to build empathy. And of course, co-created artifacts, like we said, collaborative creation of maybe podcasts, educational videos, but contents that they use the devices or the digital technologies is to work with and communicate and shared purpose and all that, and have where the repository where all those things are kept. So artifacts like that also can be things that we could begin to introduce in our classrooms. And once they begin to work in teams collaboratively, give feedback to one another, we're also developing their social and emotional learning skills and creating empathy. We could also turn their social media into social learning. One thing I hear a lot, especially in my circle, a lot of teachers are like, oh, these students don't want to learn, they don't want to read, all they want to be on their phone. Social media has taken over their heads and all that. So it's a common complaint, but sometimes I wonder, okay, so how can we use this tool that they're so into to actually help them to learn. So we could actually turn your social media into social learning. So social media doesn't have to be about just passive scrolling. It can be a powerful tool for active, connected learning, especially when guided intentionally. So guidance is also very important. And how do we use this social media? What's some of these social learning strategies? Educational contents where we guide students to follow educational creators or scientists, depending on their areas of interest, authors, or thought leaders who share valuable insights, and of course, who share quality content. So I'm not talking about just influencers here, people who you have created, that you're sure that you've helped them create, that will share quality content in area of their interest, thought leaders in area of their interest, authors or scientists that they could also follow. And of course, engaging with these contents, helping them to inspiring their curiosity also and critical thinking. Another thing is teaching digital empathy. So how do they share their thoughts online? How do they engage online? Are they respectful? Are they commenting responsibly? What kind of engagements are they modeling? So they need to practice things like responsible commenting, kind disagreements, thoughtful engagements. One of the things that we need to help them understand is that digital empathy is a crucial life skill, especially for this our connected world. And a lot of kids don't understand. They think that because it's a screen, they are being shielded when they don't engage thoughtfully. But like one of the things I share most times when I go to school to talk about digital citizenship and the rest, with your footprints on the sand by the beach, the waves and the waters comes and they get washed away, and that's it. But with your footprints on the internet, it remains. The internet does not forget. And that is the reason why we must ensure that we're teaching digital citizenship, and digital empathy is part of an aspect of digital citizenship. Because we've seen where people's admissions have been rejected, coming down the line, even people go into your histories online and pull out things, just verify who you are, what your thought pattern is, what your lifestyle is, and all that. And it's even influences job postings or even university applications and all that. So it's very important that even at this point in time, that awareness is done, so that it's a very critical skill. And another thing is creating opportunities for students to share and reflect. So when you have your students engage digitally or on the screen and beyond the screen, how do they reflect on what they have engaged with on the screen? So having that opportunity for students to share what they've learned online and reflect on how it connects to classroom learning is also very key, because this transforms just consumption to meaningful dialogue. So these are some ways that we can turn their social learning, social media to social learning, using some of these social learning strategies. We have a lot. So mindful screen use also encourages intentional engagement, with technology. When we're helping students develop focus and self-regulation, we're integrating micro breaks and mindfulness practices so that we can foster holistic well-being, promote, as they engage with the technology. So one of the things, encouraging micro breaks. So maybe after 20 minutes or so, the teacher is expected to pause, or the kids are expected to pause, or students are expected to pause, look away from the screen, if possible, get up from their chair, stretch their bodies. I know some teachers will say, go take a water break or something like that. The basic thing there is that just breaking that screen time, so they don't have that elongated time just to, engaging with the screen or staring into the screen. Some other things that I've seen other educators do is that emotional check-in, where using an emoji. So how you, what are you feeling right now? Frustrated, excited, and they use the emojis to describe what their present state of mind, even as they're engaging with you or in the content or in that virtual class. or using a poll. So just that micro break where you do a check-in or a physical exercise. Sometimes the teachers are the ones who actually get up on the screen and have the kids also get up and do those stretches and whatever it is before they come back again into the main activity for the day. So you don't have them seated and engage the screen for a long hour. Another thing that helps also is introducing what we call the focus apps to practice self-regulation. So basically focus apps, things like timers, where, okay, if you have an activity that you're giving them to do for like 10 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever timing, you have that timer display so that they don't get distracted. They know they have this time limit to work within, and then they're focused because they're aware. So it helps them monitor their usage, and makes them conscious of the choices they make about when to engage and what to disconnect from and what not to distract with. Then you also have what we call model mindfulness, kind of grounding exercises. This is just an example. There are other grounding exercises because sometimes just coming into the class, especially those who are working virtually, having virtual classrooms, just coming to class and going directly into the content, just like you would not go right into some heavy lifting exercises when you get up in the morning and you want to exercise, you would do the soft aerobics to warm up the body before you go into the heavy duty kind of exercises. The same thing with engaging in the classroom virtually. So some grounding exercises, like for instance, the example I gave here, the 5, 3, 2, 1. Okay, look around. What are 5 things you can see? Maybe they drop it in their chats and all that, just to get them ready, and resetting their focus, for the online engagement, transitioning mindfully to their screen-based learning. So this is something that we could also do to ensure that there's where mindful screen time is being done. I need to run. I see that my time. So basically, emphasizing the value of human interaction. We can't but emphasize it much more, especially in this time of AI. And so the goal here is to humanize screen time. So we are not eliminating it. It's not like, oh, screen time is bad, but like you said, it can also be harmful and helpful. But what we want to basically do right now is humanize it, where adult presence, curiosity, and responsiveness are crucial to meaningful connection with children. For instance, a simple 15-minute co-viewing session can be far more beneficial than 2 hours of solo screen use, as it encourages shared experiences, deeper conversations that also enhances emotional understanding. So imperfect connection is better than perfect isolation. So show up, stay curious, meet with the children where they are. Quality trumps over quantity at any point in time. Cultural sensitive connection is also very key, recognizing and respecting the cultural differences in technology use and engagement. For some cultures, it's okay not, as a matter of fact, they are not even expected to put on their screens, their videos, while in some other places require that every child has their video on. You remember, even in some of our cultures in diverse places, as a kid, some will say, look into my eyes when I talk to you. Don't look down. That's disrespectful. But in another culture, it will say, you don't look me to the face when I talk to you. And so it is a sign of respect for the child also to look down when she's talking to adults. So cultures vary. Understanding those diverse cultural perspectives also in technology use is also crucial. And secondly, it's also important that we also incorporate locally relevant media and content, actively seek out applications, videos, or contents that reflect the languages, the traditions, and the lived experiences of the children that we are actually engaging with, because representation really matters a lot. And let's promote local stories, encourage students to create these stories by themselves, or we find stories that are local that we can share their contents that honors the community in which we live in, and also celebrate our local heritage, amplifying those voices, so cultural. So how do we navigate screen time challenges? We know that, like every other technology, it's like a two-faced coin. You have the pros and the cons. And so knowing that, yes, with intentionality, we could have very meaningful screen time engagement and beyond the screen connection. But then there are some challenges. Some of the challenges we have, the same thing for educators or caregivers or parents, similar excessive gaming. And so how do we mitigate that, or what are the practical solutions or responses to such challenges? And one thing I want to note is that we're approaching those challenges with curiosity rather than judgment, because for each of those challenges, each of those obstacles is an opportunity to teach resilience, critical thinking, and self-awareness. So for instance, gaming, we know it's okay to play games, but excessive gaming can be an issue. So we can set co-play sessions where you join in, you understand the appeal, because some of these games you need to understand what is it about it that is really getting them engaged, and wanting to spend too much time. It's only when you do understand that you could now find how, in fairness, to establish time limits, and that will respect the child's autonomy and not feel like it's a punitive decision that you're making. For digital distractions, there are maybe places where you have to create the tech-free zones, maybe where they study, dining rooms or bedrooms, or maybe tech-free times, like maybe first hour after school, whatever it is that would work. But just avoid social isolations, plan regular digital family time together, or group projects that use technology as a tool for togetherness rather than a replacement for human connection. And of course, we have privacy concerns. So tech age appropriate lessons should be given about safe sharing, about digital footprints, and of course, the critical awareness. The aim is to empower rather than frighten our children about online safety rather. So those are some challenges and some ways we could go about them. And as educators and as parents, we want to turn every click into a connection. And so while you are creating an activity or planning an activity, you need to pause and reflect using some of these questions here. Does it encourage creativity? Will the child make, build, compose, or express themselves? Will they be creating in a nutshell? Does it promote empathy or teamwork? Will they collaborate? Understand others' perspective? Does it spark meaningful conversations? And if you can answer yes to at least one question, then you are already creating intentional screen time that serves connections and growth. Now, so to quickly wrap up this session, because I don't want to take more than my time, and maybe from all that has been said, although we did a lot of skipping, as an educator, as a teacher, as a parent, identify one screen activity to enhance connection starting from tomorrow, because the action here is not just for us to listen in, we are learning so that we can apply. What have you, and it doesn't really need to be a big bang change. Like, what small change could you bring more presence or curiosity or meaningful dialogue to, in what digital moments? So you just need to think about it in your classroom, at home as a parent. What small change can you bring in? Maybe for you, it may just be paying a little bit more attention to what content you're engaging with on the screen, and or co-watching with them so that you could have reflections and all that. So one small change will you be bringing into one screen activity? For time, I was going to plan that we think about this and maybe somebody comment on the chats, but just think about it, something you would want to go back and see how you could begin to start to intentionally engage your kids or your students as we go forward. Okay, and then there's some resources out there. Definitely, this does not exhaust all the resources that you have. Common Sense Media, they have a lot of things that they have where digital citizenship, engagement, and all that is concerned, screen time and all. Then you also have the Castle Cell framework. You have the UNICEF Digital Literacy Toolkits, and of course, things like this kind of webinars, local digital well-being communities, or even this kind of webinars that helps support, like the one you're attending right now, effective technologies for families. There are many resources out there that we can engage with. So technology connects devices, relationships connect hearts, and intentional educators are able to connect both the devices and the arts. So we actually want to bridge the digital and human worlds with wisdom, warmth, and intentionality, ensuring that every interaction that we have on screen is an opportunity to model connectedness, mindful presence, as we hope to cultivate in our young children. So technology is best when it brings us together, fostering connection and enriching our relationship. Thank you for attending, and I would want to close by saying, may your digital interactions be intentional, your connections be authentic, and your impact be lasting. My details are shared, and we could connect beyond this screen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Oluwakemi. That was very profound. I was, like I said, I have my notebook taking down some notes, and I can see in the comment section as well that people also have things that the length. Thank you so much. I learned a lot. One of the quotes I'm going back with is imperfect connection is better than perfect isolation. And for the fact that we're not trying to totally erase screen time or digital connection, because whether we like it or not, the digital age is here to stay. We just need to make sure that the interactions online, for every like, every click, there is a connection and a relationship is being built. So that was super amazing. At this point, we will be opening the floor for just 5 minutes for any questions that anyone may have. So you can drop your questions in the comment section, and then I'll read out the questions for Dr. To respond to. Also, if you have any questions at all that you had while she was speaking, or just something she mentioned that made you think of something, you're not sure, you want her to go over something again, please, this is the opportunity you have to drop your questions in the chat so that she can answer you, because she's still here with us. Thank you so much for that. Yes, so people are saying thank you in the comment section, because that was an amazing one. Thank you, thank you, thank you. While the questions are dropping, I'm going to let you know some of the things that, or should I say some of the highlights that people had during your session, some of the takeaways. Like someone said, technologies connect devices. It is better when it brings us together and we have meaningful interaction. You also mentioned that we should incorporate local media content, promote local stories for our children that represent our culture. We also said, very important, this is one of the ones I'm not going to forget, is that we are not eliminating screen time, but we are fostering human interaction, because imperfect connection is better than perfect isolation. And we can help our children build self-regulation while using social media to promote mindfulness. You can also guide the children on thoughtful engagement so they are not aimlessly doom scrolling on social media, and teach them digital citizenship and responsible use of social media. So we're all making the digital world a safer, more humane, more beautiful place, one child at a time. Thank you so much once again, Doctor. Um, yeah, I think this we're not eliminating screen time is going to be a favorite. So I need, when we're taking recap for today's session, Wura is good team. This should be one of the major code that makes it, because everybody is quoting this. We're not eliminating screen time, but fostering human interaction. Imperfect connection is better than perfect isolation. Very important. Thank you so much, Dr. Olurinola. All right. You can guide the child on thoughtful engagement. We deeply appreciate you. So, are there any questions or anything that you want clarity? Doctor has also dropped her contact details in case you would like to connect with her after this. Please feel free, go ahead, let her know you attended the empathy equation webinar by WuraisGold Foundation, and then you can interact. All right, let me go into the comments one more time and see if we have any questions. If not, we'll be moving to the next very amazing part of today's program that I've been actually looking forward to. Let me see if we have any questions. So we have more appreciation. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you, Ma. Very insightful. We deeply appreciate you. You can guide the child on thoughtful engagement. You can teach. Yes, beautiful. Yes, very impactful. Well done, Doctor. All right, Doctor, in case you can hear me and you can see the chat, everyone is saying thank you. Thank you. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. All right. Since there are no questions, without wasting much time, I am going to be moving to the next agenda for we'll be moving to the next item on our agenda for today, and it's actually going to be very interactive, very fun, and I'm super excited because we're going to be getting a global perspective on the topic, right? So we have a lot of people joining us. Just in case you don't know, we have people from the UK, we have people from the US, we have from Singapore, we have China, we have Nigeria, we have a lot of countries and continents represented here. So this next agenda, or this next item on the agenda, is going to be able to capture all our questions, all our different perspective here in the room. The next agenda is actually a panel discussion, right? And the topic for the panel discussion is global motherhood, Raising Emotionally Intelligent Kids in the Digital Age. So this is going to be a moderated discussion, and we have 6 amazing mothers in the room with us. My goodness, 6 amazing mothers, and I'm going to just run very quickly through their profiles so you know that we did not come to play. We brought the best of the best today. All right, so we have Dr. Adetong Faloye, who has close to 2 decades, close to 2 decades of experience as a medical doctor, with over half of this spent in the mental health specialty. She currently practices in one of the NHS England Mental Health Trust as a psychiatrist. She obtained her Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery from the University of Ibadan. She is a fellow of the West African College of Physicians, Faculty of Psychiatry, and has a master's in health policy and management. Dr. Adetong envisions a world where conversations around mental health are commonplace, such that no one will be ashamed to discuss their mental health challenges. She regularly shares mental health related information on her social media handles. The next is a very special woman who I know personally and I'm so inspired by, Pastor Onyekachi Zimwan, who is an associate pastor of Petra Christian Center, Wuse, where she faithfully serves with wisdom, grace, and a heart for people. She is a seasoned and professional educator, and she brings a wealth of experience in both spiritual and academic development, impacting lives through teaching, mentorship, and pastoral care. As a devoted mother of 3, Pastor Kachi, like she's fondly called, is especially passionate about godly parenting and the intentional raising of children in accordance with biblical values. Her life and ministry are dedicated to equipping parents with the word to nurture children who are spiritually strong, emotionally balanced, and morally sound. Wow. Through her voice and example, she continues to inspire many to embrace the high calling of parenting with purpose and faith. Now, her passion for raising godly children has also bettered her soon to be released book on godly parenting, a resource that promises to inspire and equip parents everywhere. We also have on our panel Alolade Oyebamiji, who is an educator passionate about shaping young minds and nurturing values. She holds a HND in secretarial studies from Yaba College of Technology and a degree in education from the University of Ibadan. Now, she's the founder of Smart Kids Club in Ibadan. She has dedicated her life to inspiring children with knowledge, character, and faith. She's a lover of God and now resides in Indiana, USA with her husband and 3 beautiful daughters, continuing her calling as a teacher. Next on the list, we have Camille. We have Camille, who is a founder, who's joining us all the way from Singapore. She is the founder of Interracial Family Singapore, and she works full-time at APAC Regional Operations and Massage Training Service Lead Team. And these are our amazing mothers, a very diverse panel, if you ask me, different experiences, and they're going to be bringing it together today to give us a very robust panel, answer some questions, and make sure that everybody goes back with practical tips and systems they can set in place to make sure that we're raising children who are not just digitally competent, but also have the empathy equation in check. They're emotionally sound, spiritually sound, and socially intelligent. All right. So before I just want to make sure that every of our panelists is here. You can just unmute yourself and introduce yourself, and we'll get the panel started. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adetong Faloye. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kachi Zimwan. Happy to be here as well. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alolade Oyebamiji. I'm glad to be here to learn, and I appreciate the time. I appreciate the opportunity to be heard.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here. May God bless you all in Jesus' name. Amen. I am Mrs. Frederick Georgina by name from Lagos.
Yes. Hi,
Okay.
my name is Camille. I'm the founder of Interracial Family Singapore, and we are actually a ground-up community initiative started in 2017 to support and celebrate families navigating multicultural and multi-religious realities. So what we aim to foster is empathy, belonging, and shared learning, so families can raise children who are emotionally aware and culturally grounded. So that's what we are.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. I think that's one aspect of migration and living in the global world that many people don't talk about, the blended cultures and way of life. All right. So okay, now apologies once again for not introducing our last panelist. I think I mixed up that. And our last panelist, last but not the least, is Abimbola Obayon, who is an English language educator and digital content creator. And she's the founder of English School for All Kids, a program that helps children and adults speak and write English with clarity and confidence. She creates daily educational videos on TikTok and other platforms where her engaging lessons reach thousands of learners worldwide. Now, drawing on years of teaching experience and a passion for clear communication, Abimbola designs practical resources, interactive classes, and digital products that make learning English simple and enjoyable. She is committed to helping students of all ages develop strong grammar, vocabulary, and speaking skills while inspiring them to love the language. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Abimbola Obayon.
Good evening,
Good
everyone.
evening.
Thank you for having me today. And I can't wait to share my thoughts in this. Thank you so much for WuraisGold Foundation.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Abimbola Obayo. And once again, we apologize for that technical glitch. So although that wasn't the fault of the Madam Moderator, I think it has to do with the technical glitch that she didn't get that. We apologize. So thank you once again, Ma, for joining us.
All right, thank you so much to all the amazing moms and all our amazing panelists who are joining us right now from all over the world, Nigeria, UK, Singapore, US. Thank you so much for taking out your time, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much. And trust me, this panel is very important. You're shaping the future of the next generation. We have mothers in the room, we have educators in the room, we have Sunday school teachers like me in the room, we have big brothers, big sisters, big cousins, big aunties, and we have just people who know that we are all raising children together and will be very open to learning from you guys. But before we start asking the questions, I just want to let everyone know the concept of this panel session, because you may have seen from the bios that they have similar interests, but everyone has a different specialty and they're from different countries. So the whole aim is we would want our mother in Singapore, who is Camille, who has rightly shared that what she does, who will be discussing inclusivity and sharing how she's able to guide children to navigate diverse perspectives in a highly connected digital classroom. And our other mothers will be sharing a UK perspective, touching on how she complements the formal education system approach to social emotional learning with personalized guidance at home to manage the influence of British digital culture. Our mother in the US will be speaking from an American context where, the American society values individualism and direct emotional expression. She will explore the challenges and opportunities that parents, including those that are dealing with online pressure, cyberbullying, and all of that, using digital tools can foster open conversations about feelings within the family. Our mother in Nigeria will be providing a vital perspective from within Nigeria, discussing how you can blend traditional values of respect, community, and indirect communication with the demands of the global digital classroom. This will shape the strategies that will be instilling core cultural values while equipping our children with emotional skills that are needed to interact in a diverse world. And our diaspora returnee mother will be providing the crucial perspective of reverse integration, sharing her journey of returning to Nigeria with her child. She will speak on managing the emotional complexities of cultural readjustment and helping her child navigate a new social and educational landscape that is both familiar and foreign. So if you're ready for this panel session, let me make sure that you're ready for this panel session. If you're ready for this panel session, ready to learn from our diverse team, please drop a yes in the comment section. Let's know that you're ready, you're fired up to listen to our powerhouses. If you're ready for this panel session, you're ready to listen to different perspectives from our mothers across the world, please drop a yes in the comment section and let's get this party started. Yes, I can see yes, yes. We need more yeses. Let's know that we're still here. Yes, 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 yes. See? Yes, we're super excited. And I'm going to be asking some questions directly, some specific questions that have been tailored for you based on your experience and your expertise, but we also have general questions that most of you can answer. And I would just like to start with like a general question. And this is to migrating moms, those that have migrated out of their home country or those that are back to their home countries. And I want to talk about identity. Identity is very important when you're forming the emotional intelligence and social intelligence of a child. So identity is very important in the empathy equation. And I would like to ask, building a dual cultural identity requires high self-awareness. Can you share a specific time that your child felt conflicted between Nigerian norms and those of your host country in an online setting, and how you coach them through that emotional conflict to find a balanced sense of self? So basically, the question is asking that as our children learn online, especially for those of you who are migrating moms, has there ever been a time when your child has felt conflicted between what they know is the Nigerian culture and, you know, those of the host country that they are in, and how were you able to go through that? I don't know which of our migrating moms or any of our moms at all will be willing to answer that.
For me, I've been working in the multilingual with the preschoolers for a long time, but I had to take up a new role that has to do with multilingual students, which I'll be using my kids as an example as well. I'll be using my students as an example. So I would say that because in Nigeria, we not in quotes, we don't shut our kids up. We just foster them with respect. There's unlike how they can be expressive over here, back home, there's this emotional resilience for Nigerians. So we as Nigerians, I work with students, not only Nigerians, I work with Spanish students, I work with French students as well. So the online classes we have with them is basically usually translated for them so they could fit in. For my kids, it was easier because they were younger when they moved in here. And so they could easily blend. But I'll say identity starts from home. Identity starts from home, not at school. That's our role as parents, where we, try to build our kids and link our faith with emotions. So for my kids, it was much easier because from home we already modeled openness. So it wasn't difficult for them to blend in online. Though they did have some challenging situations once in a while where I had to just remind them how they would link their emotions and faith and try to get a balance with the world here. But for my multilingual students, where I had to translate, there's a way things are done back home. Here, they're expressive. There's emotional transparency and individualism in America. So it's a bit different. Well, what I was able to do is just to let them put their emotions into writing. I was able to use, for my students, particularly, I had a student from Nigeria that surprisingly, because Nigerian students speak English very well, surprisingly, I had a Nigerian student that doesn't speak English and speaks only Yoruba. I was from a village, been attending, he's been attending, I think because he's disabled, so he's been in like a remote Osun State part of Nigeria where they teach them in Yoruba. So for him, I was able to help him continue typing in Yoruba and teach him how to translate into English. And that helped him in the classroom because he gained more confidence by expressing himself. He was able to connect because he couldn't voice out. He's been taught to be respectful. He's been taught to bottle in whatever he's feeling. So with typing on Google, he was able to, type in Yoruba, and then I teach him how to translate. Then we went back to phonics and started teaching him in English. But for the online part, he felt a bit closer as the day goes by. We started 2 years ago, and now I can say he speaks English quite well, and he's been able to pass his English classes. So I would say that yes, for some here, we do work with parents as well, which is not often as we work with the students in the classroom. We work with parents because we create an avenue for them to reach out to us, and we'll provide materials for them to help the online, like what they watch at home, try to make sure it's English based and all that. So that's what I can say about identity in my experience. Modeling to our kids to be open and trying to strike a balance between the Nigerian being respectful and disciplined and keeping quiet and not being expressive affects some kids to be able to express themselves, but trying to strike a balance and say, oh, you can be open and, at the same time, not be rude. So I think trying to strike a balance, it helped. It helped some of my students online. They were confident enough online than in the classroom, because in the classroom, they didn't have to face. So they could come up with an essay online and then present it in the classroom. This has run a bridge between, being able to foster empathy in that area. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Alolade. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for the specific example. And thank you for mentioning something very important that people overlook is working with the parents, understanding that parents of these children, whether it's in the school setting, whether it's in like church or not a standard formal education setting, but you're working with children, make sure that the parents are involved. Because whether we like it or not, they spend more time with their parents. So you have to work together with the parents. So thank you so much for that. I have one more general question before I'm going to begin to ask questions that have been tailored for you. And this is about something that is rising in the digital world that we cannot do away with, the social vices. I would like to know, in fact, if everyone, each of our amazing panelists can actually take like a minute to answer this question, that would be great. This question is about what has been the most difficult digital era emotion? That's a new phrase, digital era emotion. What has been the most difficult digital era emotion for you to guide your child through? For instance, anxiety from social media comparison, frustration from muted feedback on a video call. What specific emotion has been the hardest for you to guide your children through, and how did you adapt your own upbringing to address it? So what lessons did you pull from your mother's treasure chest and use in guiding your children through the emotions they deal with online? I'm going to start with Abimbola. You can go first, just a minute. Let us know how what's the most difficult emotion and how were you able to take something from your childhood to address the current challenges.
Okay, so I'm going to use my son as an example. He's a TikToker. Well, he's been so we recently moved to Nigeria. Having lived in the UK for so many years, they were born and raised in the UK, and he had been doing TikTok for a while. He enjoys it as well as balancing his school life and everything. And of course, moving back to Nigeria, there's been a slight change in the sense that there's more workload here, and it's a very hot country as compared to where we're coming from. So it's kind of like affected him in a way. And in as much as, I appreciate what the doctor spoke about, when you allow your children to go on social media, make sure you know, make sure make sure that you know what they're watching, and make sure it's purposeful, basically. So when my child goes on social media, I know that he's going there to learn something. And so he's either learning or also adding an input, for his own future. But since we've been here, it's been very hard for him to like balance things out, so whenever he watches other people growing on social media, it seems that his page has become stagnant, of course, because, school has taken priority here. It's kind of like affects him. And it's when he sees his friends abroad and sees how far they've gone, it kind of makes him feel like he's missing out, like he's not where he needs to be, as compared to if it wasn't a social media era. So in a way, it's kind of looking like as if social media is like a yardstick for success. So, I've had to advise him, that back in the days, we didn't have anything like this, and this doesn't determine your future or your progress. So prioritize the right thing. And in the holidays, you can always catch up and do what's necessary for you when it comes to social media. And he's been able to understand. So yeah, I guess that's my input on this.
Oh, thank you so much for making it so practical and very true that this generation tries to use social media as a yardstick. My picture only got 100 views. That person's picture got 2,000 views, so they're better than me. But thank you for reminding them that even when you were grown up, there was something people were using as a yardstick. It will still change and it doesn't matter in real life. Thank you. Good job, what you're doing. The next person to answer the same question is going to be Pastor Kachi. What emotion has been the most difficult for you to guide your children through in this digital economy? And what do you think you've taken from your own upbringing to help them navigate it?
All right, thank you. For me, I think the most difficult social media emotion would be that similar to what Mrs. Abimbola Obayo said, that expectation of perfection. So I mean, my older son, he's the one that has a device and doesn't have a device, but he uses a device at home. He watches all these videos and all of that, and he has this expectation that if I can't do it perfectly, then I won't go out there. I don't want to embarrass myself. That the teen issue. So he sees the videos and he just thinks, oh, these ones are really good. So it's really debilitating because, for example, recently he told me they had a public speaking competition or something, and they were supposed to come out and just speak. And he said he didn't bother going out because he knew he wasn't the best. I'm like, who told you you're not the best? And even if you're not the best, just go out and try. He said, no, you can't go out until you're really good. So it's something I'm actually struggling with. But what I'm doing is letting him see that whatever we find online actually is staged, kind of. So I think it's difficult for them to realize that even the shorts, the YouTube shorts we see, the reels we see on Instagram, that 1 minute video on TikTok actually took hours to create. So sometimes I sit with him and we go back to watch the behind the scenes moments of these really short clips and show him how that, look, these people tried and tried and tried and eventually got something okay to post. But if you don't try at all, you will never get to that point where it's okay, in quotes. So I keep watching with him, like what our keynote speaker mentioned. It's something I actually do a lot, just watch with him. And whatever he sees and I see he likes it, I say, okay, let's go behind the scenes. Let's Google this. Let's see how many minutes, how long does it take to create this video? And he begins to see it that, oh, it actually takes some time. It takes a lot of practice. And if he doesn't put himself out there, he will never get better. So for me, I think that's the most difficult emotion.
Wow, thank you so much. So, Mrs. Abimbola, I will sum up her own. I'll say both of you have something. I think I want to call it comparison. And letting them know, like you said, everything maybe not staged, but everything is carefully curated. People show you what they want to show you, when they want to show you, how they want to show it to you, and I'm super glad that you are able to, that's something very practical, actually going behind the scenes to show him that this is how long it took them, these are the failures, these are the bloopers, and they are not magicians. They are humans like you. They make mistakes like you. And if you want to get to that level, you have to pass through this. Thank you so much for that. The same question will be going to Camille from Singapore. What's the most difficult emotion you're guiding your child through? And what lesson from your own personal life would you say you've used to help them through the emotion?
Hi. So I have 3 children. They are of different age group, which I find it very challenging. And I give them devices. I'm not shy to say that I give them devices to use to connect with others. But there's one thing that I did is that I create the content for them. So I help them to see different perspective. So there may be a time where, for example, if they go for soccer or bowling practice, and I would capture the failures and I would capture the successes. And when I were to put it up on their social media, I show the successes. And from there, they actually learn that, okay, so my mom puts up good videos of myself. I get very good comments and likes and posts from my friends. And at the same time, I do educate them that all these other videos that you see online, like what Pastor mentioned, they are all curated. It's what we do behind the scenes to create them. And it gives them um, that sense of value in them, that they will not compare with what they see online. The difference here I see is I grew up in I would say I'm a young millennial, and I'm very in between the, the Generation X, my generation, and Generation Z, and now with Generation A. So I'm very, very in between. Also in the era where website and Google just started coming up, that there was my generation. So I find that I find it hard to connect more towards the older generation of how they want us to raise our children versus how we should be raising our children in that sense. And I try to adapt to my children. As much as I do not like TikTok, I still do it because I feel that I need to connect with them and to also know and guide them in how how they see themselves and how they value themselves. Yeah, so I feel that in terms of these anxieties that they go through while watching social media, I also do um, co-watching with them, sharing with them reels that would connect with them, and also encouraging them to send me things that they like, reels that connects with them. And that's how we start a conversation. So yeah, that's what I feel.
Well, thank you so much for that, Camille. I love how practical everyone's response has been. I love that you first of all started by mentioning that there are different age groups. We're going to get into that in some of our questions, because honestly, what works for a particular age group may not work. If I will not work most times for another age group. And I love, I rephrase everything you said to you show them instead of telling them. Mean that you don't just tell them with words that, oh, it's okay to fail, everybody fails. You're actually doing it for them, posting it, letting them know that you fail, we post it. You have good days, we post it. Bad days, we post it. Letting them know that they should be human first before trying to be likable online. I really love that. So very quickly, we're going to also be hearing from Dr. Adetone. How do you deal with your children's emotion in the digital age?
Well, thank you very much. So my kids are I have two children. One is 11, going to be 12 in December, and my younger child will be 9 next year. And they do not have their personal, so they don't have personal devices, so they are not on social media. However, we had to navigate a situation recently when our daughter had to start grammar school, and she has to travel by train, which is just about 15 minutes away from where we live. And everybody was talking about getting a phone, and we were clear as parents that we weren't going to give her a smartphone. It was not, we wasn't, we were just very clear in our mind. However, we knew we had to have a means of communication with her should there be extreme cancellation or for whatever reason. So I said, we're going to get her a basic phone. And she said she didn't want a basic phone. And I could see because I could even, and it was a case of, oh, everybody's going to have a smartphone and I'm going to have a basic phone. I don't want that. Big girl kind of thing, big school. And then I was stuck in, okay, what's the next best thing? Was a smartwatch. And I said, oh, are you happy? Let's look through some of the smartwatches. Are you happy to have that? You're going to be able to make phone calls. You're going to be able to receive phone calls. You're going to be able to send text messages and stuff like that. But you won't be able to have social media. And she understood that. And the learning point really, which I could draw from my life as when I was younger and what my parents stood for was basically that everybody has it doesn't mean you have to have it. What is good for you is not necessarily what is good for everyone. And the fact that you don't have it doesn't mean that you are worse off than them. It's just that maybe it's not appropriate for you yet. And honestly, She feels like a cool girl wearing her smartwatch. She chose the color she wanted herself. And yes, the primary thing is communication with us and a few friends. And honestly, when that was just like an easy way out of, because I was anticipating that there would still be some pushback from her about a smartwatch, but she came on board with it. She loves it, and there's no conversation around getting a smartphone. It just that just went into the background without any hassle. Yes, she has a laptop that is mine that she uses to complete school assignments and stuff like that, or even go on Google and search. But not any device that is personal for her because she's 11 and that's our decision, and it's worked well for us so far.
Okay, so I'm Gen Z, so I'm going to use our slang. You stood on business. When it comes to raising children, managing their emotions online and offline, you set the boundaries, you make the rules, you stand on business. Matter what happens, that's how you're able to set the standard. Thank you so much. And it can be difficult, and I relate with her telling you the specific type of phone she wanted. Because even me, when I wanted to start using a phone, my dad told me it's not just to answer call and get text messages. Why do you need this? And I said, no, all my friends are using this one. You cannot, yeah. So that age is usual. Everybody wants is normal. Everybody wants to use the type of phone that their friends are using. But good job and how you navigated that, right? And then we'll also like to be hearing, um, okay, yes, Mrs. Lolade, what is the most difficult emotion that your children are navigating in this digital age? And what lesson would you think you took from your own upbringing to help them navigate it?
Thank you. For me, my first child is 8 years old, so there's been no debate about giving her a phone. She has an understanding that she can't get a phone until we agree to that at what age we decide as a teenager. But I think I was able to learn something from my upbringing about talking things through, sitting her down and talking things through. Also, collaborative learning, trying to explain to her why we made that decision. When I was young, my mom would just tell me no, and no is no. But being able to strike a balance between the Nigerian and American culture and not restricting an outspoken girl who might come off as talking back at her parents because that's what she wants, but I had to, my husband and I had to just agree that, okay, we'll sit her down and talk to her. And she understood. And we were able to reach a truce with that tab. We could limit her YouTube page to a certain hour, and then we could control what she downloads on YouTube because we have to approve it with her home password and not a password. So we have a bit of a control on her iPad. So okay, so we're able to solve that by allowing her to make shorts, which would vet before she could post. So instead of TikTok, we were able to create YouTube shorts with her. I was able to create YouTube shorts with her, and then that solved it. So she never mentioned anything about phone. Instead, she would just tell people, oh, go to my mom's YouTube page. It's not in her name, by the way, it's in my name. But then she's happy, she's out there. So, and I was able to control that. And then I'm glad I was able to do that because when we were young, I would tell her I didn't have a phone until I was going into the university. So I think with that, even though she mentions it once in a while because of the peer pressure and all that, saying, oh, my friends has phone. Well, on the bus, we have phone. We have to call. Oh, you have a smartwatch to do that. We could come up with that for now. This is what you have to do. And then with that, we'll see how far we get. Thank you.
Yes, it's all about creating the balance. And I love the fact that at the end of the day, mommy is happy, baby is happy, everybody is happy. And it's not easy creating the balance because balance looks different at different points in their lives. So sometimes the balance would be one person happier than the other, but it's still a balance. But right now, she's happy, you're happy. That's all that matters. And thank you so much for realizing that you mentioned something about she's outspoken, so you don't want her, you also don't want to water down her personality. And I think that's one thing my parents had to do for me too, because they also didn't want me to grow up and then be just a quiet mouse because they kept on shutting me down. But they also let me know that you can do that outside and come inside the house. So I love that. All right, very quickly now we're going to the specific questions. And this question is specifically for Mrs. Abimbola, who is what we refer to as a diaspora returnee mother. You know, she explained how her children were born there, but now they're in Nigeria and they're experiencing, you know, all the culture shocks and all of that. And what I would like to ask her, actually I have a lot of questions, but what I'd like to ask her first is this. Now, returning to Nigeria actually involves major emotional transition. You're not just changing your address, it's not just a physical address you're changing, but what was one piece of emotional or social preparation that you gave your child that has proved to be most valuable when they entered the physically expressive and less formally structured Nigerian classroom? Let me explain again. So you've come back to Nigeria. We agree that it's not just a physical change of address, it's also an emotional transition. What is that one piece of emotional or social preparation that you gave to your child that has proven to actually be valuable now that they are in a more physically expressive and less formally structured Nigerian classroom environment, Mrs. Abimbola?
Thank you very much, everyone. Honestly, I didn't prepare my kids for anything. You know, we've had to learn and unlearn so many things. You know, in the UK, children are taught early to express themselves. You know, they're allowed to share their opinions freely. But coming to Nigeria, it's a totally different ballgame. You know, I mean, there's a beautiful emphasis on respect and politeness, but sometimes that means your children hold back their thoughts, which, you know, that's something my children were not used to. So I've tried to, you know, make them understand so many things about Nigeria. Nigeria is a country that honestly it requires a lot of patience, even for me as their mother and for them as well, because at the end of the day, my children's mental health is a priority, regardless of whether we're in a country with a different culture or not. And personally, I feel like Nigeria has a very long way to go because here we're talking about empathy equation, we're talking about confidence. So I feel like in this country, we want something from our children, but we're not really giving it to them. You know, like for example, I feel like our everyday reactions are our children's first emotional textbooks. You know, like we need to learn to model empathy to our children, be it the teachers, the parents, you know, all the siblings or guardian. Like children don't learn empathy by lectures, they absorb from how we treat others. For example, you know, let's say we go to a restaurant and a waiter brings us a wrong order. You know, I think it's important for us to learn to be gentle, to speak to the waiters gently, because as we do so, our children are automatically learning patience. You know, I've had times when my kids will come back home from school and they'll they'll complain about a teacher, or mom, this teacher is this. He said shut up. He said this. He said that. You know, I've had to like tell them to just take it easy and just hope that these teachers can learn that you don't have to tell a child to shut up for them to listen. Like there's so many ways to communicate with a child. Like you want them to feel confident about their future. You want them to have empathy towards other people. So you need to model it, you know. So that's something that I've been helping them with. I didn't prepare them for anything. You know, I've been teaching. You know, another thing is I feel like here we must teach communication and not just speech. For example, you're an adult or you guys are having a conversation and a child interrupts. You know, I don't think it's right to say, I'm talking, can't you see? You know, all these things that my children have had to experience in Nigeria, which can sometimes drive them a bit crazy, but I've had to, you know, I'm like, you know, their guardian, I've had to help them understand that, you know what, just take it easy. I'll speak to this person on your behalf. I'll speak to that person. I feel like there's so many ways you can handle it. Like even if a child interrupts your conversation, you know, there's so many ways you can just communicate with them and let them know that, can you hang on a second? I'm having a conversation, instead of shutting them up and making them feel like they've done something extremely, extremely wrong. You know, there's so many things. So, like I said, I did not really prepare my children for anything. Another thing that I feel like Nigerians need to work on is to build their emotional vocabulary, because everybody, you know, has a feeling and there's a word for how you feel. And when you have a child who is like throwing tantrums here and there, it's you should be able to give that tantrum a word. You know, like a lot of children act out when they cannot find the words to express how they feel. And these emotional words give them tools to manage their feelings. For example, when a child throws tantrums, like I was saying, I mean, I know it doesn't sound African-like, but let's just say they are very angry. You can say to them, "You look frustrated." Instead of shouting and dismissing how they feel, you look frustrated. Like, use a word for them, because that word will calm them down. Because if you say that to them, that child will either nod yes or no to you, and you guys can find like a common ground to understand what the situation is. So I haven't prepared my children for much. We've had to learn so many things. You know, I personally encourage my children. I encourage perspective talking amongst my children. I have three boys. They argue, of course, and I'm not the type of mom to, be like, who started it? No, like that's, and I've seen situations like that since we've been here. And even like my children look at some people, they're like, huh, why are they behaving like this? Parents don't have to say who started, or even teachers. You can call the first person and ask questions. What happened? How did you feel when this person did this to you? Also call the second person. Don't jump into conclusion, because you're teaching them how to understand before judging, which is really, really important. So, another thing that I want to talk about is to affirm their voice. I think it's really important for us to affirm our children's voice, because children feel heard when they become children feel heard. Children who feel heard, sorry, becomes adults who listen, and that's one thing we don't do here in Nigeria. And honestly, in as much as we live here now, I try my best to ensure that them going to school or mixing with the adults in Nigeria doesn't really affect their growth, because I don't want to call myself a gentle parent, but I practice gentle parenting. Not that I'm not disciplined. I do know how to discipline my children. They know their boundaries, but there are ways to deal with things when it comes to our children, when it comes to what we want for them, their future. We want them to feel confident. We don't want them to be timid. So we must practice so many things. For example, a child comes to you and says, "That's not fair." Like, you don't have to dismiss what they've said to you. Try to get to the bottom of it. Communicate with them. Understand what's not fair. Make them understand that their voice matters. And one thing I want to add to this conversation is that empathy without confidence is silence, and confidence without empathy is basically arrogance. But if we can manage both together, we'll raise children who can change the world. And studies shows that what is practiced for 66 days becomes a habit. So if us as parents, teachers are able to show our children how to behave, empathy, and all these things that we want from them, it will become habitual. So it's important to reflect, refine, and repeat. So let us learn to reflect, teach our children to do so as well, refine and repeat. So yes, back to your question. I didn't prepare them for much. We've been here, we've come here, we're happy here, by the way, but we've had to learn and unlearn and protect our mental health. Thank you.
This is Clock It.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're seeing me when you're speaking. I don't know if you're seeing the reactions from even your co-panelists. You have dropped like 10. Like you've dropped, and I was just writing. I was like, where do I start from? Communication is not just speech. Children will learn from the parents more than any textbook. We need to teach our children emotional vocabulary. We need to affirm them, which is one problem. I agree with you that Nigerian parents have. They are very dismissive. You tell them, "Oh, my teacher made me feel, I beg, get out of here, Jerry. What do you know?" Or a child will say something and you say, I beg, you're too young for that one. What can you say? I beg, leave this place, right? And then this one, I'm going to frame it. Say, children who feel heard become adults who listen. Hey, I love it so much. I love it so much. Thank you so much. That was so amazing. So moving on very quickly, we are going to be speaking to Dr. Adetone on personalizing formal SEL. Now, the UK's PSHE curriculum provides a framework. Can you give us an example of how you've taken a lesson on empathy from your child's school? Have you been able to take a lesson on empathy from your child's school and made it a living, breathing practice at home, probably by relating it to a character's action in a game they play or showing in a show that they stream? Has there been any example of you taking a lesson on empathy from their school, from a game they play or show they watch, and then putting it into practice in the home, Dr. Adetom?
Okay, well, not exactly, but what I know they do in school or that I have observed, which I found quite impressive, the school recognizes even the smallest acts. So my kids will come home from school with, oh, Tammy was kind to somebody today, was kind to a pupil in a junior class who fell, and they would come home with a card letting us know that the child did that. And I suppose as a mom, one tends to take it for granted when your child is kind to to the sibling, or when they show kindness towards you, right? But when you now find the school actually documenting and rewarding the child with a card, as small as that looks, I think it's a big issue. And while I know as a parent and even as a mental health professional that positive reinforcement is a great thing, when somebody does something good, you should reinforce that behavior. The school drove that lesson home further for me, such that I don't overlook or ignore even the smallest act of kindness or empathy that they display. For example, I think there was a day I was climbing the stairs, whether I was climbing down or climbing up. I was coming down the stairs and I missed my step. And my son was the first one to run out. I mean, when I missed my step and I twisted my ankle, I screamed in pain. And then he came out. Well, he came from the living room to where I was. Oh, Mom, are you okay? Gave me a hand, tried to get me up, went to get the ice pack. And I was honestly blown away. And even though I was wrenching, I was in pain, I made sure to say, oh, thank you very much for that act of kindness, and even the initiative to think of getting me an ice pack without telling him. So the lesson from school in that they document and let you as a parent know. Of course, they handed over that card to the child. So the child he read what they wrote there. He knew what he did, but, getting a card, affirming that behavior, reinforcing and appreciating his effort, and then bringing it home to us and letting us know that this happened in school today helped me to realize that I think this is something that as a parent, I need to reinforce. Do not ignore, do not overlook, even what is seemingly the smallest kind of kindness or empathy that your child displays. I think that's something, and I would really love to see more Nigerian schools do that, really, reinforcing not just grades, a child that, but reinforcing things that make us human, things like empathy towards others. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for that. One thing that you're taking from your child's school is a reminder to set up a documentation and reward system, and it works wonders for people. I remember when we were younger, my younger brother once told my mom that when I do something good, you never praise me, but let me just do something bad now, not hear the worst of it. So do you want me to be doing bad things, or do you want me to be doing good things? I'll never forget. And it was true. Sometimes we tend to magnify the bad or the mistakes that they do, and then when they do something good, we don't even, it's a normal thing, oh, you were this, you were that, but magnifying the good that they do will actually inspire them to keep on doing more of that. Thank you so much, Doctor. Very quickly, we're going to be moving to Camille, and the question that I have for you is, you spoke about living in harmony, interracial, interreligious, intertribal, just living in a society where there is a blend of different people. So I want to talk about from harmony to active empathy. And Singapore's racial harmony is actually a social fact. But how do you move your child from passive coexistence? Because you can actually coexist with people in a community, in a society, without actually interacting with them. So how do you move your children from passive coexistence to active empathetic curiosity online? For example, if a classmate shares about a religious festival on a learning portal, maybe they are on Zoom and the child says, oh, today we are celebrating this in my country, or my parents and I are coming from this temple, what do you do to turn that from a post, like just, oh, somebody said this, into an empathy lesson for your child. So I'll take the question again. We know that Singapore is a racial, there's a lot of racial harmony there. So how do you move your child from just simply coexisting with everybody to actually being empathetic and curious online when other people share their religious, social, or racial, beliefs and systems? Camille, you can take the stage.
Yeah, okay, so maybe just an introduction of my family's background. So I am Chinese Catholic and the only daughter in my family. I have two brothers. My husband is Indian, he's Malaysian, and he's Hindu. We did not convert. We remained as our own religion. So we had 3 wedding ceremonies, and our children, they were baptized both Catholic and Hindu. So they are raised in both. So within our family, that's why we started interracial family, and we actually embrace it because this is a taboo. It's something that it's hard for people to accept. And in Singapore, we have a framework that is categorized as CIMO, Chinese, Indian, Malay, and others. The others consist of all the other races that comes to Singapore, whether they are permanent residents or they convert to be citizens. So this framework actually celebrates, we do celebrate Racial Harmony Day on a yearly basis on 21st of July based on because of something that happened in history. And on that day itself, we do celebrate Racial Harmony Day in school. And it is a must to celebrate it, where children embrace it through eating different foods of different culture. But the only thing that is missing here, apart from eating the food that Chinese, Indian, and Malay cultures would eat during their festivals, they also wear cultural clothing. But what is missing here is that nobody really knows what they do during their culture. For example, if Chinese New Year for Chinese, what do we do and what is the significance of it? It is very surface, like we don't know what's deep within. And often we would teach our children why we do certain rituals. It come to a point where I also realized one thing, that our culture is tagged to our religion. Because if my husband is an Indian Catholic, I would not face so much of an issue because we have the same religion. We would celebrate Christmas, we would celebrate Easter together. But because he's Hindu, there are a lot more rituals, a lot more festivities, religious festivities that we need to go through. And I will need to educate my children in both ways. How do we integrate it to help them to do an empathy lesson, not just for our not just from them looking at their friends post. It's more on what they post to educate their friends about their culture and identity. I hear a lot about what the Nigerian culture is. I think it's very similar to Asia culture because we are also raised in a very strict culture. Like we would scold our kids. It's not gentle parenting. We don't do gentle parenting. But right now we do have to go into it because of the digital era, where they see how children in the US, in Europe, they are always very expressive about it. And my children would tell me how expressive they are and why can't they be more expressive. So I try to do it at home, even though it is not done in school. I would tell them to educate people in their content, why we do certain rituals and why do we celebrate certain festivities. And they take this time to also understand where they come from. Within this CIMO structure, my children does not belong to any category. They are a mix of Chinese and Indian. So in Singapore, it is quite different. They need to see themselves as a blended of both instead of I'm Chinese or I'm Indian. It's both. And in school, it's quite difficult for them to also express themselves because of this CIMO structure. The children are taught to put them in boxes. So if you're Chinese, you belong to this category. If you're Indian, you belong to this category. It's a preconceived notion that is ongoing. So it's a lot more about how we educate our children to accept their identity and knowing how to educate others about their identity. Thank you.
Thank you
Sharon,
so
you're
much.
muted.
Wow. I love, thank you so much. I love that. Oh, I'm just realizing that you're actually from China. I'm currently in China, and I think I relate with you about the Nigerian similarity between the
Mm.
Nigerian because I'm in the mall and I'm seeing parents coding their children. And I'm like, you guys do
It's
that here too?
very
Like,
similar. Yes,
yeah, like scolding them and taking away their toys. And I'm like, eh?
it's similar.
Yes. Oh, but yeah, your children are going to have one of the richest life experiences because that is a mix, a very a very good mix that has a lot of history, culture, everything. And I love that because of what you do, I'm sure you'll be able to help them still stay grounded in their identity, even though I'm sure society will try to define them. Oh, you're not just Chinese, you're Chinese, Indian, this. But I know you have that on lockdown. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. The next question that I have is directed specifically to Pastor Kachi. And this question is about low tech emotional anchors. So, to counter the transactional nature of online learning, because let's be honest, everything's transactional. You log in, you do this, whatever. So, to counter that transactional nature of online learning, what is a simple, low tech daily or weekly practice that you use to ensure that your children remain grounded in family emotions and non-digital social cues? Basically, how do you detox? What are some low, easy emotional anchors you can use that you use to detox your children, snap them out of the digital world, and bring them back to the physical world?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Sharon. And thank you everyone who's spoken. I'm really learning a whole lot. Okay, I'm glad you said low tech because really we can't erase tech in this generation. So one thing I do frequently, interestingly, because I never imagined it would be a problem, is actually getting the children to make calls just to check up on people, not because they need something. It's interesting how my children, okay, my first son is 12 years old. He actually does not know how to hold a phone conversation except it's, Mommy, I need this, Daddy, I need this, this auntie, I need this, something that I want something, so I call you, and that's because that's how it is digital world. You use the laptop to learn. You want, there's a particular aim. And interestingly, the lessons will give you outcome. We are learning to, there's always an aim. And so I've actually had to literally teach, this is how you make calls just to check on people. So we make a video call and they're like, what will I say? I don't have anything to say. No, you have to find out, okay, how is the person doing? How do they feel now? How are their siblings? How is it in wherever they live? Just to check up on how they're doing. So it's something we do regularly just to keep them emotionally in touch. And then another thing I do is I make them do, what the doctor, the keynote speaker said, they don't do devices individually. So I have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old. So literally a lot of gap between each of my children. And then I make them do devices and watch whatever they're doing on one device. Of course, as parents, we know that it's going to cause some squabble, but it's better to not avoid it, but to teach them how to even work with themselves. So they do the argument, no, I want to watch this, I can't watch cartoons, or for my first son can't watch cartoons. My daughter, who is 9, wants to watch something girly, and the others are boys, and they're like, no. And the last boy wants to watch something like Wildcrafts, and they're like, no. So they had to, I didn't even get involved, find a way to sort themselves out, have a system where they do, okay, 1 hour for me, 1 hour for you, or 30 minutes each, or one show for you, one show for me, one show for the other, and then they rotate again. But essentially what it taught them is to relate with each other better, to be fair, and interestingly, they started enjoying each other's shows. So they finally got to see how, okay, yeah, even though it's Wildcrafts, something that we enjoy there. Even though it's Gabby's dollhouse, it's something that there's something fun there. And even though it's just for them, gets them to mix with each other again, connect with each other beyond just the screen. I think that then for totally no screen time, we have structured games. So there are times where we come together and just play board games in the house. Some evenings are no device evenings. We just come together, play board games, play charades, play whatever it is, but don't do anything device. I think those are the three things I would share.
Thank you so much, Pastor Kachi. I love that you started with thank God it's low tech, because let's be honest, it's almost impossible to totally say no, no, no. And because of the different age gaps. And you said something about you just realized that they cannot hold, because most children when they pick up the phone is, oh, the data has finished, can you? And I realized that that's true. I've been away from my family for over 2 weeks. And my younger sister is in a boarding school, so she just came back for midterm. I just gave her the phone. Oh, speak to your sister. You will not believe the first thing. She was like, "Oh, I had to travel. How are you doing? Okay, please, can you send me money for?" I'm like, so that's why you called, because you wanted to ask me for money, you wanted to ask me for something. So it's so funny how they actually cannot hold a phone conversation, and that's why it translates to like face to face. Sometimes like, when they go somewhere, they're already looking for instead of speaking to the person beside them, they just want to play games on their tab or something. And that those are children that are growing to adults like me, that even go on a business date or on a date with somebody, and you're pressing your phone half of the time and wondering if you're on a date with the phone or the person in front of you. So it's these little things we imbibe in them that will actually be the culture they adopt as they grow up. So good job on that. And then last but not the least, we want to hear from Mrs. Lolade. The question that I have for you, excuse me, the question that I have for you is about digital kindness and self-awareness, because with the prevalence of social media, there is a very thin line between jokes, banters, just having fun, and cyberbullying. And I think sometimes we keep on saying, oh, this child bully. Sometimes I think the children don't even know that what they are doing is bullying. They're, oh, we're just having fun, right? So what is a key family rule or like a conversation you've had with your children before to guide them on engaging online, so that they're always self-aware with their words to know, oh, I'm already tilting too far. Oh, this is still a joke. This is still, oh, or this. Not, it's not even just about cyberbullying. So it goes both ways. Like, how do you train your children to know when they are being bullied, when they are bullying someone else, when they are being, is assault the right word? When somebody is being, inappropriate with them, and when they are being appropriate. I don't know if you understand, like it's a two-way. Is there anything you've told them or any clues you've told them to look at to make sure that they are being kind, they are being they are showing empathy, and they are being self-aware while they are interacting online?
Thank you for that question. The question is something I'm still learning a lot about, but how we handle it, because I realized that first, I teach my kids first about purpose, their first identities in the Lord Jesus Christ. I make sure that our family values, our Christian-based faith is where we start from, is where I start from with my girls. And then we move a step further when they going into school, because bullying is a lot here. Cyberbullying at school, especially if you're Black in a white country, it is a lot. So first, it has to do with self-esteem, also reinforcement. So first we make it a point of duty to let them know that the fruits of the Spirit is kindness, love, joy, peace, all that is established in our home, because sibling rivalry is also another thing they keep fighting. And then within them, the conflicts we settle within the house, we make sure we use that and also send that back with them to school. So with that, we try to lecture them on when to walk away, when to, be quiet, when to talk, and then we just pray that the Holy Spirit guides them gradually, because I've seen scenarios where my daughter will get notes, even though she doesn't have a phone, she's not on social media, she still get, I try to protect her from comments. I don't put comments on her shirts, but then when kids mingle with each other, we're amazed at how much these kids know. Like, they do know a lot. So, and when they body shame or they be unkind, I see it as a reflection of low self-esteem. And so instead, I try to tell my kids that instead just pray for the person or pity the person, but also it's important to stand up for yourself and know when to pull away. You know, that's how we pray for. The same way I pray for destiny relationship for myself, the same way I teach them to God to lead them to good friends so that they know when to detach from a particular set of students and they know when to keep going. There was a particular scenario where someone wrote my daughter in notes and body shamed her. And then she tried to tell the teacher, you know, but they didn't do anything about it. But by the time she was going to write her home back is when they took it up. So it's like that here. And so I just let her know that I'm here to stand up for you. It's important for a child to know that the parents has her back no matter what. And so you having her back means that she pray even before she thinks of her faith, before a child thinks of her faith, she's thinking emotions. So if the parent herself cannot keep her emotions in check, then the child will not learn to keep her emotions in check. But kids will always be kids. So we try to not to make them take things to heart too much, and we try to make them, you know, there is no behavior act of kindness that can't change. Like if you have a classmate that you have to work with on the project online, we have to call each other back and forth. The parents have to talk. You have to be kind. You just have to, you know, they do this projects often, and then they have these clubs with each other, and then you have to just find a way to navigate it. Being kind, giving love begets love. Being kind begets kindness. So sowing that seed, it's fine. I'm not saying just kind people will come around them, but then try to pick them not to take it too personally and pray for that person, or just kind of pity the person. Oh, my daughter automatically just says there has to be something going on with that person to be speaking with me like that. So I try to shift their orientation to make them feel bad for the person doing that to them, not to take offense. Just shifting their attention away from the offense. You know, oh, he did that. Don't you think he probably is from a home where they did do that to him? You know, just trying to shift their attention. It's not easy. It's not a smooth ride, and there are different scenarios, you know. But then I believe that even at home, the way you handle conflicts, they're watching. They're watching. They're watching how their mom in traffic. They're watching if I'm cussing out someone that drives around. So they model basically what we do. So it's a work in progress.
Thank you so much. Two important things you said. You kept on repeating it. It's a work in progress because trust me, I don't think there's a brand manual, right, for that. And then number two, I like the fact that you started with letting them anchor their identity in Christ, because like that word anchor is important, because every other thing, emotional intelligence, I think it was Pastor Kachi's post I saw where she said you can read all the books, there can be a lot of tips and tricks, hacks and courses and online videos you can watch about parenting, but to be very honest, anchoring them to something higher than themselves, anchoring their identity in God is because that's what's going to be with them when you are not there. And then most importantly, they learn from their parents, and they must know that their parents have their back both ways, meaning that if they are getting bullied, they can trust their parents. If they are the ones bullied, they know their parents are going to call them to order, and so they don't do it. Thank you so much. So we're coming to the end right now of this impactful session. I would like everyone that has questions to begin to drop the questions in the chat room. If it's a general question, you can drop it. If you want to direct the question specifically at any of our panelists, please feel free to also do that. All right. But right now, I'm just going to go around. I want to give all our panelists just a minute to just round up anything that you want to say. Last words of encouragement, any tip, any trick, just anything you want to let us know in a minute. We just go around while the questions are dropping. We take the questions and we call it a day. All right. So I'm going to be starting with Dr. Adetone. You have 60 seconds for your closing remarks. Anything you want to say, you want to mention to us, anything.
My closing remark will be to appreciate the convener and our moderator for today, as well as other panelists, and to say that building emotional intelligence and empathy in children is primarily a parental responsibility. And the way to actualize that is, first of all, by modeling that we are aware, emotionally aware, and also are able to regulate our own emotions. So children learn by modeling, first of all.
And if we learn to be more emotionally intelligent, more emotionally aware, and better emotionally regulated, our children stand a greater chance of replicating the same.
Thank you so much. The next person will be Mrs. Lolade, your closing remarks.
I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity. I've learned a lot. I'll close on the notes of saying that the world is evolving. Like, we cannot control those we meet online or in person, but we can control ourselves. We're responsible for how we react. We're not responsible for how people react. So being in check with ourselves and being true to ourselves, putting our emotions in check, trying to stack a balance and having empathy, so to say, in raising these kids and putting a balance to the online thing. It's a very useful trend. The world is going in that line and we have to move. If we want to be relevant, we need to keep learning. So I'm going to close on that note and I'll say thank you to everyone. Thank you.
All right. So our next panelist to give a closing remark is Mrs. Abimbola.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks to everyone who have spoken. It's been very impactful. And I just want to add that it would be nice if we can, learn to teach digital kindness. Let us, teach our children the rule of pause, read, and send, which means before sending a message to somebody, either via DM on their phones, maybe it's on WhatsApp or sending emails, let us learn to teach them, to ask themselves, is it true? Is it kind? And is it even necessary? Let us teach them that every emoji, every word carries emotion and impact because everybody matters. They matter, and whoever it is they're sending the message to also matters. And that'll be all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it even necessary? Very, very important. Thank you so much. Our next panelist will be Camille for her closing remarks.
I just want to thank everyone for your very insightful sharing. It's an eye opener for me because I'm coming from Singapore, from Asia Pacific, and it's the first time that I get to speak with Nigerians, and I really love the conversation with all of you. I think I just want to end it off with what the keynote speaker shared earlier on, that our footprints in the sand can be washed away by water, but footprints in the digital world cannot. And I think we need to also enforce in our children that we need to make intentional connection, and it comes from empathetic inquiry. I think that is the most important thing. Also to instill growth mindset in digital learning. It's not always about showing what I wear or how I look. It's also about how we can educate other people and also to help them and inspire them through our posts and our contents. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I love that you brought back that quote to our remembrance. The footprints in the sand can and will be washed away by either water or wind, but the digital footprints, they can never be washed away. And honestly, online, when you think nobody is watching, something should happen, and then you realize people have screenshots, people have they can always find a way to find something you've said. So start building good footprints as early as you can. And last but not the least, Pastor Kachi for her closing remarks.
Okay, thank you. I would like to say thank you to the convener and to every speaker, every panelist here. It's been very insightful. For me, I would like to say that for every parent here, for every teacher, I want us to understand the real importance of teaching our children emotional intelligence. The truth is their future is going to be full of AI, full of a lot of technology. However, the people who will succeed really are people who have high emotional intelligence. It's going to be something rare. It's going to be something very needed in their future. In fact, research has shown that 10 most important skills that people in the future, adults in the future must have. Emotional intelligence is like the third of them. So let's all take it seriously to teach our children these things. It's very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, as the world keeps on raising towards the zenith of digital growth, more and more emotional intelligence is going to become more important, and there's no better time to teach them than now. We are going to take a group photo, but I have a question that I would like to ask anyone that wants to answer is, I don't know if it was intentional, but all our panelists and our main speaker were women. And I just want to ask the panelists who happen to be moms. I don't know how to frame the question, but it's like all these things you've taught us and you've said to us this evening, is this a joint is this a joint practice, or how do you deal with partner interference? Because most homes, at least from what I knew growing up, there is the play of good cop, bad cop. Everybody has that, oh, my mom is the strict one, my dad is not strict. Or my mom is not strict, my dad is the strict one. So it can be that a mom will say, oh, no screen time. Another mom will say, and the dad will say, it's not that serious. Or the child will say, no ice cream after 6 o'clock. And the dad will be like, leave her, Joe, let her take the ice cream. How do you navigate parenting styles with your partner? I don't know if that question, I don't know if that makes sense, because I just noticed that all panelists and our speaker were female, so we didn't kind of get like a perspective from the male parents. So it's not like it's just the females that are doing the raising. How do you do the co-parenting together? Is there anyone that wants to answer? That's my personal question.
For me, generally speaking, at least in Africa, I know in America things are a bit different. In the UK as well, it's getting different. But in Nigeria, it's still kind of the norm where the man is always out, kind of. So we find that really the children do spend a lot of teaching moments with mom. Maybe that's why you do find moms a lot in these forums like this. However, in Africa as well, just putting it in context, in Africa as well, the men are tend to be very, very traditional. So as much as I do all this emotional intelligence and all of that, my husband is generally just, this is it and this is it. But what I do is, if I see it going, because really the children do need the strength of the father. So that firmness that the father brings is very necessary. There's no need trying to change him to be me. Okay. They need that balance of the firmness. But if I do see, okay, this is going to be kind of damaging to the child, what I do is just aside in our wee moments, I just explain. I learned, and I won't say that this thing you did, this child was wrong. What I do is, okay, I read this book and it went on about this and that, and I'm just sharing what I learned in a book. And I feel like, I think it has a point there, and we just discuss it. And he comes to see it, actually, thank God. He does come to see because he's very open. We've had a situation where it was something really, really not nice he said to my first son, having father and son moment. And I just, shared with him, I read in this book. And then there's this adult we were counseling, and he said that his father, when he was young, said this to him and he never overcame it. We just had a chipping it in. Chipping it little by little. This person said, as an adult, it's what his father said years ago. He still hasn't overcome it. He's still, I really felt bad for him. Really, I was driving at what he said to my son. And actually, he went back and he had a father-son moment, and he apologized to my son and all of that. So there's a lot of wisdom in bringing them in, because they might not necessarily sit down and study these things. They might not attend sessions like this, but we can always bring them the knowledge in the right way. We communicate in the right way and let them see what we see, basically. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love that. And I've jotted this down. You don't go directly and say, you said this and that. That's not how we're going to raise our children. No, you will not do this and that. I read in a book, a wise scholar once said, Shakespeare once said. I've learned that one. And thank you so much. Does anyone want to add to that? Or we can all please turn on our mics, whether you're a speaker or not. Every participant, please turn on your mic so we can take a group photograph, or what we call chakam, right? And then before we leave, if our keynote speaker is still here, I don't know if she's still here, please, we just take your closing remarks as well. Is there something that you see? A lot of our panelists quoted you. So you can say like, panelists were even the ones that like they drew from your wealth of wisdom. So if you can just grace us again one more time and just give us your closing remarks, that would be fantastic, ma'am.
Okay, I actually stayed in and listened in, and I think it was very, very, very insightful conversation having here, and a lot of things that resonated here. But just like I would explain to parents sometimes when we talk about this digital connect and the rest, I would ask if any parent would freely, let their children loose in a park. Sometimes you take your kids out to a park, and you keep your eyes on them. Don't go too far from me, and all that. You want to know where they are at every moment, what they're doing, who they're playing with, which stranger they're engaging with, who they said hi to, ensuring you're not collecting anything from anyone. No, we do that when we take them out physically. But then we think to assume that it's okay to just drop a device with them and let them enter the digital park unguided. And, thinking that because it's a screen, it's safe, not knowing that you have much more dangers, even in that space that you'll have in the physical space. And so the same effort, the same consciousness that you use to hold their hands through those spaces is exactly the same that's required in the digital space. So just to encourage people, because there's just that sense of, oh, it's just a screen, and so it's safe, but it's not as safe as it is. You actually still need that intentional intervention, intentional presence with your kids, even as they engage online.
Oh, thank you. The wealth of wisdom, the world does not run dry, because you've dropped another one. Like, I never thought of it that way. The attention we put on them when they are engaging in the world physically, and the online world is even bigger, because at least in the physical world is only the, would I say in quotes, the forces you see, the forces you are seeing physically, you are protecting them from. Online, there is XYZ in Asia that's interacting with your child. There's ABC from England. There's somebody from America. There's somebody from another part of Africa. There's somebody from South America. And it's crazy, the connection. Sometimes you cannot even fathom, like, how did this even happen? So I think I love that. So the same care, the same intentionality we put guiding their interactions offline, we should even double it when it's online. Not just think this little screen can actually connect them to more people than even the biggest park in your neighborhood. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma. All right. Thank you so much to everyone that participated and stayed to the end. Thank you so much to our panelists. We're really grateful. Thank you so much to our keynote speaker. Thank you to every single person